Well, world, you may be wondering why I'm wearing the red nose, but it's Red Nose Day. I think it's something that started in, I don't know if it was Australia or England, but it's a day in which we help contribute to any kind of nonprofit that may be supporting the ending of child poverty, because child poverty throughout the world continues to be a problem. And there is an organization within the United States called Red Nose, or Red Nose Day, I think it is. And they're kind of a clearinghouse, and they accept donations, and then they identify child-related nonprofits to whom they then send the funds to. And I think during this coronavirus, it's important to understand that disproportionately the poor have been affected more than the wealthy. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to shelter at home and work at home, go to school at home even, because I think even in our town of Defiance, Ohio, there have been found to be many cases where families just did not have internet access at home, may not have had a computer other than if they provided one by our schools, which I think our schools do that. But a lot of things that those of us who are not in poverty, we kind of take for granted. Their luxuries are things that people in poverty don't even have. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to keep the nose on for the devotional. The devotional today is Clothed with Power, and it's written by Talitha Arnold. And it's based upon the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verse 49. And it reads, "Wait in the city of Jerusalem until you are clothed with power from on high." And Talitha writes, personal protective equipment is much in the news right now. From grocery clerks to medical staff, bus drivers to nursing home aides, essential workers need protective clothing, goggles, and other gear to ward off the coronavirus and stay safe. The rest of us also need masks and gloves, and not just for our protection, but for protection to protect others from ourselves. In Luke's final resurrection story, the risen Christ reminds his disciples of their need for another kind of PPE too. Wait in Jerusalem, he tells them, until you are clothed with power from on high. Like the disciples, we need to be clothed with God's power, especially in this time. Whether we're on the front lines in a hospital ICU, stocking groceries at a supermarket, or sheltering in place in our apartments or homes, we need to be clothed with the power of God's love that overcomes despair, clothed with the power of God's peace that calms our anxious spirits, clothed with the power of God's compassion to stay open to the needs of others, clothed with the power of God's wisdom to know what we must do, and clothed with the power of God's courage to do it. Most of all, we need to be clothed with the power of God's presence that holds us, comforts us, connects us even in isolation and quarantine. We need God's PPE right now. Whether at home in our pajamas or clad in scrubs, masks, and gloves, we need to let God wrap us in power and hope, love, and wisdom this day and every day. And Talitha's prayer. God, remind us to pray every morning for you to clothe us all with your power, wisdom, and love. Amen. I think as I kind of started out during this time, it's important for us to engage in prayer so that we can have our eyes open to the reality of others who may not have what we have. As I said, we often take so much for granted and just assume that everyone has the same sorts of access and capabilities that we have. And they may not. So, when you go out and see people out and about trying to do their work, some with masks, some not, just pray. Pray for God's protective power for them and for you, and to approach every person you come across with the compassion and love that God has for you. Talk to you soon, and have a blessed day.